Yeah, hey everyone, and welcome back, so to say. Some of you might have seen me today already during the panel. I want to talk about multivariant apps with Nuxt 3 today. And it's fun because the topic came up already. And before we dive in, a few info about me. Yeah, I'm Alex. I'm a web development consultant, as I said earlier. So yeah, teaching developers, educating developers, giving workshops and talks like this here. I'm also maintainer of Nuxt.js and have a Twitter account. I have also a website and a blog post where I should post more, especially now that Nuxt 3 is out, giving all these deep dives, and GitHub as well. So yeah, long story short, let's bring it on. And a question to you, and I want to see some emojis or answers in the chat. So who of you out there, ever, for example, wanted to use theming and configs as base of multiple Nuxt projects? Who wanted that? Like say, hey, I have my base set up, I want to use it in this project, this project, but it's not about copy pasting, but just like use it, and if you change something, it will be applied there too. Next one. Who of you ever had to work on a project that had a designated version per customer, say like a subset of features that goes to this customer for this instance and some other features there. Even same for branding again. And I saw it in the chat today too. Who of you ever tried to use domain-driven design in the Nuxt projects? So always CDS first, like me is coming. That's amazing. That's great. Keep them coming. So yeah, a classic like white labels multivariant app could basically cover all of these and looks like that. Fun part, I did not at all make that. That's a contribution in one of our issues actually, so check out the source if you're interested in that. So yeah, and all of you who are just like, yep, yeah, +1 me, you all know one thing. It's difficult. It is difficult to do that. Why? Well, first of all, the good part is it's totally possible through Nuxt hook and module system. Or someone already wrote like, yeah, I did it with module. That's the way, and already this was possible in Nuxt 2. Philippe, who spoke earlier about performance, created a very nice guide on that, so check that out. That's on the Vue School blog. And yeah, that works pretty well, but the problem is, you all know, well, you know Nuxt default folder structure, which is amazing, but it's kind of flat, right? It's like, okay, all the components in the components folder, or the pages and pages folder. You can't group them by domains, by concerns. You have to group them, well, by what they are. And that's totally fine. But if you want to group them by, like, say, modularized versions, say module for shopping cart has like the page in there, the components in there, then this setup is a little bit tedious, so to say. At least it was in the Nuxt 2. And you have to do it for every project again and again. And at this point, I see some of you were there. You might look like Stanley from The Office. Like, oh, really? Really? Well, so we all come back to the point that it's difficult, right? But I'll tell you now, it was difficult. Not anymore, because there's a new feature coming with Nuxt 3. It's already in there, which is called extends. And extends will solve all the problems you have with that, at least. So let's take a look what extends does. Well, as the word says, you can extend your Nuxt application based on other applications or like partial applications. They don't have to be like a full-blown application. You can do that, of course. Say like, okay, hey, maybe I just change a few runtime options here and there and maybe like add another component to override stuff. But you can also say like, oh, I grabbed something from there and the module here and there. And this is really amazing. I love it, especially for growing projects. Like I see them day-to-day base. This is a real relief. And I also see like, oh yeah, finally. Yeah, exactly. This is what some of you really waited for, I know. The good part also, you can use it from a local folder. Say you have like a monorepo. Great. You can use it for npm packages even, and Git repositories too. We will see that in a bit. For Git repositories, there's like a little asterisk because there's a limitation. No dependencies will be installed when you pulled it from the Git repository. So if you need dependencies and don't just want to put, I don't know, static assets in or some pages, then better use an npm package with, I don't know, Verdaccio for like a private one or a public one. If you want to utilize open source, which is great, or yeah, monorepo. Again, for Git repositories, GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket are covered, or you can just use HTTP as a prefix, so just give the Git URL in there, and it will work. Under the hood, a nice tiny package called C12 is used. Again, from the Vue.js organization, and you want to hear more about it tomorrow in Puya's talk, so definitely check that out. And now I want to show you the very simple syntax of that. And Sebastian already mentioned that in the keynote, right? Oh, we have this new feature called extends, and we can just put in an npm package like here, content wind. This is the well-known Nuxt content and tailwind starter, or the template to get started. And this is in there, open source, and already works. Of course, we can also make it a little bit more complex. Let's say we have a base app. We maybe want to add a GitHub repository in, as we just discussed. We want to add this feature and that feature. All good, not a big deal. So we can make it as complex and with as many apps as we want to. It is not limited to one. And yeah, what happens now with these? Well, let's see. First of all, each of these sources will be transformed into a so-called layer. So from all the like sub-apps, so to say, we create layers. And thanks to these layers, like Nuxt is aware of them, and they will support all the benefits of like the special Nuxt folders. So yeah, that means you get all the goodies. Pages in the pages folder will just work. Components will just work. You have full IntelliSense, you have HMR, you have TypeScript support, and auto imports, you guessed it, will just work. Great, right? And here's one more thing. Layers can override previous layers, which means, oh, we can have like a base application. And if we say, in this project, we need to change the component a little bit, or like not just a little bit, but totally, we just override it for that specific scenario. So all in all, lots of flexibility. And I could go on, but I really want to show it to you now. Okay? So I will open my VS Code now. And actually, this repository is already open source. The link will be there at the end. You can play around with that and have a look, and also open it in Code Sandbox, Deckblads, whatever. So I made a little mono repo here with PNPM. There are the slides that I just run live, so ignore these. And here I have an app base and an app customer one. And I will make it a little bit bigger so you can see a bit more here. So let's see. We open app base. What do we have here? We have app, that's a folder of Nuxt as well. And we have router options here for, I just copied that from Content Wind, so shout out to Sebastian for that. To set like the scroll behavior. Maybe want to in all our applications, we want to have nice scroll behavior, return to the saved position, on history back. We want to scroll to a heading on click. So basically no-brainers for our projects. So we put them in there in the base layer, and they will be just there. Okay. Then let's check further. What do we have as well? We have a components folder, and there we have a simple app button in there. Okay, a fancy button. No, well, not at all. It's not styled. Click me. We keep that in mind. What do we have as well? Pages. Sure. We have no index page here, but we have an about page saying default about page from app base. And what we also have is an info page with default info page from app base. Great. Again, we'll come back to them because this app is already launched, and we'll take a look at it right away. And in public, well, I wanted to add some JavaScript that's just lying around there. It's not used right now, and says console log from public file. Okay, great. And our Nuxt config, well, is minimal. Okay, so far so good. And let's launch this application. I don't want to spare you with the waiting time. We just check it out right away here. It runs on localhost 3000. If we go to / you see, oh, page not found. Well, in our app base, we had no index page, so that's expected. And if we go back to about / about here, we see default about page from app base. Great. If we go here to info, we see default info page from app base. Okay, so far this works as expected. Very basic Nuxt application, nothing really changed, right? But now we get into the fun part. So let's get back to VS Code. Let's close the app base folder. And let's check out app customer 1, which is our multivariant app for that customer, for example. Again, this is one of the many use cases. Do whatever you like with that. You don't have to do it just for that use case. You can use it for whatever it seems to be useful for you. Okay, what do we have here? Not much in there, right? We have a pages folder, and there we have an about page with a little bit of use head. Again, talk tomorrow from Harlan. Will be very interesting. And saying here new about page, easy. And we load some JavaScript. But very important, it's not the JavaScript that is in app customer 1, but it's the one that we will import from here. We'll see then. Also, we have an index page saying app customer 1, and it uses an app button. Maybe you could also use a lazy app button. Look, auto-completion just works. Great. Okay, and now we see the magic behind it, which is basically just that. We have extends, app base, so this folder, and oh yeah, I threw in a little GitHub repository a couple of minutes ago, just thinking, hey, maybe you can demo that too. Yeah, nice. So what we'll do now is we take a look at this application. Okay, we go to localhost 3001, and here on slash, we see app customer 1 and click me here, right? This is the app button from app base. And just so I don't fool you, let's do click me, please. And click me, please. Very nice, works well. Let's go to slash about. Slash about shows new about page because the about page of the customer 1 overrides the base level page, right? Okay, we can check out info. This is still the same. It was included in app base, but it's not necessary, like it's just copied over, so to say. And if we go back to the index page and check out the console, and I hope it was really on the index page. Let me double check that. No, of course not, it was on the about page. So let's go to about, check the console, and we see here, if we ignore this, from public file, which is from the public file from app base, from the JavaScript file there. This is also loaded. So again, this works pretty well too. And well, now you might wonder, what's with this, how was it called? GitHub thingy here. Well, I created a repository, as I said before, and it's very basic. It's really just the Nuxt config, and in pages, git, we see here a very simple page. And let's go here and just try git. And it's there. So again, we can seamlessly import from local packages from GitHub repositories and based on, for example, the content wind theme, as you saw, also from NPM packages. If you take it in the app base, here there is no git, that's 404, because we only added in our customer 1 project. So it is only in here, obviously, and not in the app base. Okay, we could go again on and on, but time is running. So I tell you, this is the start of it. I already see lots of questions in the chat, so we'll come to that in a bit. First, it's also very important to mention a little playmate of the extends feature, which is the app config TS or app config JS. It's in the end used to expose reactive config for your app, which can be updated during runtime if you like that. And it will be added to the client only. So please don't let any secrets in there. That should not be exposed to the client. And again, here we have the huge benefit of full HMR support, user config that's composable to retrieve the app config. And again, we have infer types based on what you provide in the config, or you can also type it manually. Also, app config can also be MJS, so it's not only TS. This is just a little shortcoming here, so it can be TS.js, MJS. Anyway, a very simple example is here. Let's say we define some socials, my Twitter handle, and then in a component we can say we get the app config. Obviously, the composable is auto-imported thanks to Nuxt, and then we, for example, log it out, and it's easy as that. So it can be used for anything. That's the good part. It's like you can use JavaScript, TypeScript, and so on, whatever you want. It can work for design tokens, for, as we did now, social links, texts, whatever you want to use. And the good thing is, of course, throughout the layers, so throughout the sub applications, you can reference that. So definitely give it a try. Now, well, you saw the good things. Maybe there are also some shortcomings. Well, of course they are. So let me show you. First, the first caveat, which is, can be a little bit getting used to it. You cannot use aliases like @ or tilde for the sub applications, because the idea here is these aliases will always resolve to the final application's source folder or project folder. And that means, well, you have to use relative paths for that, but only in the sub apps. In your actual application, you don't have to. That's, a little bit of a downside here, but that's just how aliases work. If you want to know, I don't know any ways around it, yes, we'll come to that in the Outlook. But the other downside is it's a little bit unexplored. Well, because most of you haven't heard of it before, there are a few usages. You see Nuxt themes in here, so what Sebastian announced, typography, Nuxt themes, docus, content wind, and of course there's a big example as test picture to be added there too, so you can see it in there too how it works. The last thing is the hooks. If you configure a hooks key, they are not merged yet, so you can just use modules for that. It's not a big deal, but just something you have to be aware. And then one more thing that already people found out, like, oh, is it in documentation? Yeah, not really. It's there in the Nuxt config list of options, but there is no extensive documentation yet. Don't worry. In the upcoming days, I'll write that and send in a PR, so it's very nicely documented. Until then, you can use the examples to learn from that, but yeah, bear with me, I'm getting there. Also, if you feel like something's missing, then please always raise an issue or send in a PR as well. Okay, a little Outlook, because one thing, or yeah, two things. First, the merging of hooks, but another nice thing is not implemented yet, which will be also a killer feature, which is called named layers. So if you, for example, want to reference a component in the layer specifically, then, well, you could be able to do it in the future by defining a name per layer and then use, for example, tilde layer name /asset /logo to get exactly that logo from that asset, from that layer. So yeah, that will be amazing. It's still a work in progress, so expect that in some minor version in the futures. Also, there's an issue to follow, which I will link in the slides as well, come in a bit. Also, what's very interesting is what you will do with it. Please always feel free to share your use cases, your creations. Let us know what maybe is missing, what doesn't work as expected, what maybe has some problems, or where you think like, hey, could we add this and this to make it smoother? Please always let us know so we can consider that and either just work around alternatives or pull it in, of course. And as I mentioned, there is this issue 3.2.2.2. I can just quickly open it up here, which is extend support progress. And there, as I mentioned, the named layer aliases and the hook config key merge are open. The other ones are already implemented, so you can basically start with that. Yeah, well, that's almost it. So just to summarize, well, extends is super powerful. It's a great way to supercharge your Nuxt application, if you want to say it that way. It can be used for tons of different use cases. I just outlined a few that I know from my day-to-day business, like, oh, we want to have modular architecture, we want to use themes, we want to reuse stuff. There you go. But I guess sky's the limit, right? The app config can be used for runtime. And, well, I think some people have run for the feature now. So please now go out and explore. Oh, well, not now, maybe after the conference. Let's wait for the next talk first. And yeah, that's it for me. Thanks a lot to my sponsors to enable me having time to spend open source. And thanks a lot for your attention. Slides and repo, link, I will share them in the chat right away too. And now I'm curious for your questions. Thank you.
Yay! I'm going through a few of the questions that we got, and
please.
Let's go with this one. Do you see any other use cases for extends than what you've already mentioned?
Yeah, well, I think in the end, it's like you can gather certain modules together to say like, hey, we have, say, a product palette in a company, and we have features. Let's say we have 2-3 apps built with Nuxt, of course, and we want to share these modules and features around too. So that could be definitely, I mean, it goes like in that direction, but that's like another, I would say, like side use case. Other than that, I think I'm really curious what the people out there are up to, just because, sky's the limit, and it will be interesting to see in the next framework discussions what people come up with.
All right, thank you. And so, do you think everything that was available for Nuxt 2 will it just be available for Nuxt 3?
This is Nuxt 3 exclusive. I'm sorry for all the Nuxt 2 users. Maybe that's one more good reason to migrate for you. So yeah, Nuxt 3 only right now. If it will be backported, I can't comment on that. I don't know. But for now, it's definitely Nuxt 3 only.
All right. And can extends be used to create a library of custom components that can be reused around distinct projects?
Yes, absolutely. So that might be another use case. Yeah, component library to share around, like made for Nuxt already with all the auto imports common and ready, and maybe also with helpful composables on the way. So yeah, absolutely. This is definitely a good use case there too. As I just shown with the GitHub repository, for example, there was also just a pages folder with one page. So you can also have just the components folder with the components, or components and composables folder. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And is extends in the Nuxt docs?
Yeah, not yet, as I mentioned. Working on that. I anticipated the question, so feel free, use the code and test I shared as living documentation for now, and I'll come up with that in a bit.
Or, I mean, if they want to contribute and want to see the change, they could help out, I'm guessing.
Absolutely, yeah. Please always reach out. It's like, hey, please document that behavior, or like document how, I don't know, show up an example with adding ESLint configs or whatnot. So yes.
All right. And why can't NPM dependency be resolved for remote Git projects? Couldn't they be resolved via a module?
Interesting idea. Yeah, right now it's really just downloading the Git repository. It is, of course, it's a limitation right now. It would be nice to, kind of get over that. But ideally, we'll work out in the future. Just right now, it's technically not possible.
All right. Well, that is the questions for today for you, Alex. Yet, do you have a different gratitude thing? What else are you grateful for? Let's come up with another one.
Sure. Yes, I'm super grateful for all the people supporting me, as well, like colleagues, people in the open source community, and of course friends and family too. So yeah, I'm very happy for all the positive vibes and energy. That will also keep me like motivated and make me happy. So thanks to everyone there.
Great. Thank you again for coming back and sharing with us now. And we will be in touch with everybody. Go follow on Twitter. Link.
Should be some questions over
there. They're there. Awesome. Thank you so much.